multivalent beings who are listening to us today of spirit, mind, and body. It's time for Ask Doc, the Alkebulanese Solutions show. This show is sponsored by Prometheus. Prometheus Reborn Universal Foundation, featuring stand-up philosophy that includes comedy, culture, science, spoken word, and music, usually self-performed and produced through a genre called edutainment, educating while entertaining. That includes the music by the Hip Hop Trio and Global Entertainment. I'd like to add, though this show is sponsored by Prometheus Reborn, it is produced by Global Entertainment as well. The hosts of the show are Dr. Kwaku L. Carlisle Woods, RN, MD, MED-D1, and Dr. Hamida Rockman Woods, MED, PhD, MED-D2. I have the PH, and he has the M. We both have D's. That makes us Doc Squared. The title of today's show is That's Traditional.
That's traditional. That is the title of the song. That is the title of the
Today's show.
That's the title of just about everything that's been around, because being around makes you traditional. Okay, we're going to go deeply into that. But before we do, I have to make a statement. Some people have listened to our program and been somewhat offended by some of the things I have said. Strangely enough, one that has not offended anyone is calling Europeans pink people. Nobody objects to that because that's what they are. But other things have caused a certain amount of disdain in certain individuals. I'm going to tell them what I say is history, anthropology, biology, specifically genetics, and a whole bunch of physiology of both your spirit and your mind that impacts on your body. Mm-hmm. Now, the truth may hurt, but lies will kill you dead.
Ashe.
Wow.
I'm going to give you the truth. Mm-hmm. Whether you accept it or not, totally, completely up to you. Mm-hmm. But guiding your living away from the truth is one sure way your living will cease. Just is the deal. Okay. That's traditional. And tradition is something that you like to try to maintain normally. Mm-hmm. Normally. But let me give you just a little bit of insight. See this stick I'm holding right here? Mm-hmm. This is called a Sankofa bird. Mm-hmm. And you see it always reaching back on its back to bring forth history, to bring forth the past, so that we could examine it in the light of today's illumination, and use that to make better decisions for tomorrow. That's what this is. Wow. That's what I do. And that's what I try to allow everybody who listens to this program the ability to also do. Now, we're going to use one word today, probably more than we've used it ever before in any show, and that word is maintain. Mm-hmm. Now, maintain. Maintain is defined as to sustain and uphold, to preserve from failure, or decline. To sustain against opposition or danger. That's the definition of maintain. But when it's used in relationship to a culture, a civilization, a business, an organization, to maintain means to put in work to fight off the advances of time. Because time is change. And with time comes change. To maintain is to fight against the effects of time. Governments, organizations, businesses, religions, cultures, peoples, and nations depend on being maintained to establish tradition, relevance, and permanence in our society and our people. How you maintain you determines how most see you or acknowledge you. How you maintain you determines to a large degree how people are going to see you, receive you, respect you, or even just acknowledge you. If you let yourself be victim to the ravages of time, folks are not going to see you as very worthy. They're not going to see you as very worthwhile. They're not going to see you as very respectable. On the other hand, if you do a good enough job at maintaining, and you can look like this in your mid-70s, all right, come on now. I like that smile on my wife's face. Yeah, because I maintained. Come on now, don't you know? Everybody knows who is responsible for the maintenance department of any organization, business, or government. Maintenance. Those are the folks who sweep the floors, mop them, empty the trash cans, clean the windows, make sure the government, organization, business, or anything else doesn't suffer the ravages of time. And the persons who are generally responsible for the maintenance of any organization or government is the lowest socio-educational group that it serves. That's going to be poor people. That's generally going to be Alkebulanese or brown people. And they are going to be responsible for maintaining the business, the government, the organization, the religion, the culture, whatever. Which brings into view the fact that how you treat the least of us is how you are going to be maintained. Love that British flag right there, and we're going to get into talking about what it means in just 1 second. I need to add, so how you treat the least of you dictates how you will be maintained. I had to get that out before I flipped over. Okay. Now, we need to now bring in another word. And that word is meta. We are on the Meta channel. We offer classes that take you to a meta position.
Mm-hmm.
But what is meta?
Yes.
Dictionary says meta means beyond.
Mm-hmm.
It signifies change or alteration, as if seeing from a higher perspective.
Mm-hmm.
That is being meta. A baby is how we come into this world. Generally, through the advances of time, we get changed.
Mm-hmm.
And part of that change is seeing reality, seeing life, seeing your living
Mm-hmm.
from a higher perspective, a different perspective, a perspective that's not only including you individually, but widens to embrace your family, your community, your nation, the world, all life.
Mm-hmm.
All of those are different levels of seeing the same picture.
Mm-hmm.
This is what meta is. And meta is pretty much the opposite of being maintained. Another way that you can say that is maintenance is about tradition, and meta is about change.
Yes.
An enabling change.
Yes.
A change for the better,
Mm-hmm.
and in many cases, a change for the best.
Mm-hmm.
So, as I said, the thing that's happening right now and affecting most people on this planet is the death of Queen Elizabeth II.
Mm-hmm.
Now, other than the fact, that's Lizzie.
Oh, look at that hat.
I love
the
me some hats.
fabric.
Just bought some new hats this weekend. But boy, she's a hat person.
Oh, yes.
And I've always felt close to her. But everybody on the planet has. She's not just the Queen of England. She's the Queen of the planet Earth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And she's everybody's grandmother.
Yeah. I agree.
Now, for me, this is a little bit special, shall we say. Queen Elizabeth II.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it just so happens
Yes.
that I was born by a woman named Elizabeth.
Yeah.
That's my mama's name.
Mm-hmm.
I have been dealing with Liz's, Betty's, Beth's, and Elizabeth's since before I was ever born into this reality. I've been dealing with Lizzie's for 72 years, going on 73. Closer to 73 than 72 now that I think about it. Okay. Queen Elizabeth II was Queen of England before I was born. And she stayed that way until right now, or at least the last 5 days. She was a maintainer.
Mm-hmm.
And she maintained England's position. Unfortunately, that position had a lot of negative things in association with it.
Mm-hmm.
Oppression,
Mm-hmm.
slavery,
Mm-hmm.
ignorance.
Yes.
Ignorance so bad that it was codified as stupidity. Again, ignorance is not understanding. Stupidity is not wanting to understand. When you don't want to understand, that's called being stupid.
Mm-hmm.
And that was one of the things that the English were famous for, along with the rest of Europe. But that's a whole nother story. Sticking to right where we are, Queen Elizabeth II was instrumental in maintaining the British Crown's hold on about 40 some odd 50 countries.
Mm-hmm.
She did this through a great display of her humanity and a whole bunch of both traits and traditions that Europe was not really high on. Empathy, feeling what other people are experiencing. Europeans have never been high on that. Oh, just the opposite. No, they said you had to not feel what other people were feeling.
Mm-hmm.
Go read The Prince by Machiavelli, the handbook for all European rulers.
Mm-hmm.
It tells you, no, you can't be empathizing with anybody else. And you cannot worry about being fair or being moral or any of that stuff. No. Queen Elizabeth II was all of those things. She was constantly empathizing with her subjects, with people who weren't her subjects, with people who were in very, very trying situations. And she was constantly not just empathizing, but trying to assist them in whichever way that she could. This woman still stood for the British Crown, the thing that was responsible for the deaths of millions of human beings in some of the most obscenely vulgar ways that a human can die.
Yeah.
Okay. She is now in a Y.O.U. That's the place that the Europeans call death. The Akan call it a Y.O.U. And in a Y.O.U, she is being welcomed by a whole bunch of friends and associates, including her husband, who went there almost a year and a half before she did. In her place, we have her son, Charles, who is now King Charles III.
His Majesty.
Yes,
Majesty.
HM. Now, as I was talking to our engineer and my business partner, McKinley Tate III, just a few minutes ago, we were on the phone to His Majesty King Charles' offices in England yesterday.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And we were given some very good directions as to who to specifically address some of our offers to allow the British Crown to offer to its subjects the chance of being meta. Now, maintenance versus meta. Are you going to maintain what was, or are you going to advance and allow your people to advance to what is to be? That's where King Charles, His Majesty, finds himself at right now. He is stuck between honoring and praising his mother, which I'm sure as a human being, he wants to do more than almost anything else. Almost anything else. King Charles had been taught since he was born that he was going to eventually be a ruler for the British Crown.
Mm-hmm.
And since, a week ago, all of that training has been brought to fruition.
Oh, yes.
As all of the stuff that his mother taught him every waking day of her life, he now has to put into motion. I would hope that there would be a major difference between the way his mother ruled and the way he rules. Because his mother ruled to maintain the British Crown. Charlie boy can't do that. King Charles has to be looking out for something totally and completely different. And that's why we talked to his officers yesterday to try to offer them the opportunity to become meta. Now, let me take these two terms apart and give Charlie boy, who looks so much like his mama, he really does, an offer that he shouldn't refuse. Okay. Maintain. It comes from the Greek. And it is from the Greek phrase, manus tenere. Manus tenere means to hold in your hand. And that's what maintaining basically is about. Taking something in your hand and using that control to shape it, to elevate it to a degree, but more than anything else, to stop the ravages of time. Okay, time is a problem. And we have problems right now due to time. Now, at one time in my life, I had a big problem because I knew that I needed some education, I needed some training, and I knew I needed some specific instruction in how does a spirit function. Now, I didn't understand that nobody had come up with those answers when I was a child. There was no such thing as noetic science in 1958, 59, 60, 65, 70. So nobody had actually gone through the processes and steps of trying to find out how a spirit functions. What does it do? It's only been since the 80s that we found out that a spirit enables, it protects, and it images or visualizes. Whenever you imagine something, that is your spirit working. It's not your mind. Whenever you visualize something inside yourself, that's your spirit working, not your mind. And you have to have these images in order for your mind to function. Your mind cannot work unless you first have an image for it to work on. You have to have an image, then your mind can weigh, decide, measure, do a whole bunch of mental gymnastics on that image. But you have to have the image first.
Yes.
Now, this was not known when I was a child, but I wanted to find out all about that. And I knew that at some point in my life, that was going to be a primary focus of my being. I'm 5 or 6 years old. I'm going to elementary school, and I'm wondering when they're going to teach me about my spirit. Okay, they didn't mention it in any of the class books that they gave me.
Nope.
One other side. One of my problems in school was that I had the habit of when somebody gives me a book, I read it. Now, y'all don't understand. When somebody gives me a book, I read it right then.
Wow.
And so every time I went to school, when the teacher gave me a book, that next morning when I came to school, that book was read. I had read it from beginning to end. And that's what I did do all of my classes and all the books that anybody ever gave me. I thought that's what you're supposed to do. I didn't find out until I was 12 years old. No, you're the only fool that does that. So, I go to school, they give me books, I read them, I come back, and I sit in class. I'm ready. I'm ready. Ask me anything about any of those books, and I will tell you.
Yeah, please ask you so you can
I've,
share.
I've read them. It took me about a year, maybe 2 years, to realize, no, you can't do that, because everybody looks at you funny. But I still wanted the information that I knew I needed. How do I function? How does my spirit, mind, and body coordinate my operations? I figure, okay, they didn't teach it to me in elementary school. Maybe they're going to teach it to me in junior high. Nope, didn't mention it at all, except to tell everybody to go to church.
Where?
Go to church. Oh, in St. Louis at Turner Middle School, they were very much into the community and into the culture.
Okay, alrighty.
So they were very much into telling everybody to go to church. And there was a church on every block. Just about, and I'm serious, on every block of St. Louis, Missouri, there is a church. So I figured they're not going to teach me that there. I grew up with everybody in my family being a preacher. All of my uncles were preachers. All my cousins were preachers. My grandfather was a preacher. My mother's father was a preacher. My father's father was a preacher. And they never mentioned anything about how the spirit worked. So I didn't think it was their job. Obviously, in school, they did. Because I went to high school, not a word about your spirit. I figure, okay, maybe that's what college is for, to learn how you work, to learn how you function. Maybe that's why everybody pays all that money to go to college. So I went to college. They didn't mention it. Not 1 second. They taught us totally different subjects. Basically the same subject they taught us in high school, just in more depth.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm thinking, well, maybe it's professional school. So let me go to nurses training. That's where my mama went. I'll get my RN. They didn't mention how your spirit functions. Okay, well, maybe I need to go back and get some more degrees in biology and psychology. So I went to Webster University and got a double major in biology and psychology. Neither one of them mentioned psychology, a brief paragraph about the ignorance that most psychologists have when it comes to the functioning of the spirit. Not in nursing, not in biology and psychology majors. Let me go on to medical school. They got to give it to me there because that's the highest education you can get. I'm going to be a doctor. You know how many times they talked about how your spirit works in medical school? I'm not talking about 3. I'm talking about 0. None. So, after medical school, after being a medical director for several centers, I go get into metaphysics. I get into spirituality. They mention it, but don't go into detail. It wasn't till I came to Cleveland, Ohio, and got in with the Akan here, that my spirit and mind were turned back, just like this Sankofa bird. And I learned what my Alkebulanese ancestors thought about your spirit, mind, and body 5,000 years ago. And that allowed me to have an understanding enough to search and find noetic science. Upon which I started writing what I believed. And it was awarded with lots of different prizes and so forth and so on. And ended up being the trivalent understanding noetics. Nominated for the X Prize and a whole bunch of other $1 million, this, that, and the other. But that was after reflection on all the stuff that I couldn't get as a child. I couldn't get it as a teenager. I couldn't get it as a young adult. I tried this way. I tried that way. I tried going down there. I tried up there. Couldn't get it. Couldn't get any of the information that I needed about me, how I function. All human beings are going through that same thing that I went through. All human beings need to understand how they function. And our government, and no government on this planet, is about educating human beings as to their functional capabilities. Makes me kind of wonder. Who would benefit if human beings never achieved their full potential? Who would have a vested interest in not letting mankind be what it is? Just a question to ponder.
Things that make you go home.
It does make you go home. But it also makes you wonder about why you can't get what you need. I got a song that I did, wrote about all the stuff that I just got through telling you about. And it's about me trying to get the understanding of my functioning. And this song by the Hip Hop Trio Plus is called Can't Get. And I stole both the melody and the idea from the Rolling Stones. And they stole their name from Muddy Waters.
All right now.
Who was one of my mentors. He was always across the river at Howlin' Wolf's. Howlin' Wolf's. And Bar and Greer in Brooklyn, Illinois, right across the river from St. Louis. Not to mention at the studio up on Natural Bridge. Right? I'd like for y'all to listen. That means make pictures of the meaning of these sounds. I'd like y'all to listen to the song by the Hip Hop Trio Plus called Can't Get. When you're going through this thing called life, you're going to have a great number of opportunities, and you're going to have some challenges.
in those opportunities and those challenges, you may not be able to get everything that you want, but you should always try to get what you need.
You can't always get what you want. You can't always get what you want. You can't always get what you want.
But if you try sometimes, you just might find you get what you need. Now we're all here for the celebration, trying to find out my own creation, how to learn from my imagination, finding truth, my only liberation. Yeah. 'Cause you can't always get what you want. You can't
Always get what you want.
no.
Always get what you want.
But if you try sometimes, you know you just might find you get what you need. So we find ourselves without the spirit, trying with mind and body just to feel it. We train, then work to make our money. Without purpose, we're feeling kind of funny, and not the ha-ha kind. 'Cause you can't always get what you want. You really can't. You know it.
Can't always get
But if you try sometimes, you know you just might find you get what you need. So finally, I thought I tried this today. Understanding, you know, it taught me the way I say no fooling. Now believe what you want, it's your decision. But I know the way without collision. 'Cause you can't always. No.
always get what you want.
Sometimes get it that way.
Always get
You
what you
sometimes
want.
can't get it another way that you can. And I try sometimes. Just like that. Get what you need. You get what you need. You get what you need.
That's my song of my life.
All right. I'm not hearing that.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
All right.
We will work
Show
out.
goes on.
Yes, indeed. It does most definitely and surely go on. So, speaking of going on, the English crown has to go on with King Charles III. I'm hoping that King Charles III has a little bit more elevation, enabling, than he does maintenance. His mother maintained, and I'm sure she instructed him on doing the same. That's one of the reasons we called up the king. Because if he does indeed do that, England, the British Commonwealth, and the world is in for some very trying times.
Yeah.
Let me explain. Right now, the world is going through some rather trying times, let's say. Not only is there a war in Europe right now, the second, that is involving in some way or another most of the continent. We're still dealing with a disease that has caused a pandemic on this planet that has killed millions of human beings and is killing every day. In addition to that, because of number one and number two, we got number three, a really bad fuel problem right now. All over the planet. Oh my God, look at that. Irving, debit pay, $4.23. Hot dog. I remember that when that was good. That was good. That was a good price. $4.23. Now it's $3 something. $3.50, $3.40. Yeah.
For a little while.
I'm hoping it gets down to maybe $2 something.
All right.
I'm hoping.
We do
Yeah.
hope for that.
But this problem is a present problem that is only going to get worse. Okay. His mama, like my mama, a Lizzie, maintained England and the British Commonwealth in the position that she inherited it as. And she maintained that position through war, disease, social upheaval, and all sorts of individual challenges. But her son can't do that and have the British Commonwealth continue. Quite frankly, his mama should have been less concerned with maintaining England than advancing humanity. She did not change to an alternative energy source 10 years ago. She didn't change to an alternative energy source 20 years ago. She didn't put up a whole bunch of solar collectors or wind turbines. She didn't use any of the natural resources that they had for generating energy without fossil fuels. She made no investments in alternative energies that would have allowed them to bypass the problems that they're dealing with now and looking down the road at the problems they're going to be dealing with in the near and distant future. Of all the countries of Europe, England has less fuel reserves. They have less fuel resources. And those resources have to not only be tapped, they have to be transported, they have to be to some extent readied before they are utilized. If Charles continues like Lizzie, England got some real problems because they will be messing around tomorrow with yesterday's fuel problems and yesterday's fuel solutions and yesterday's challenges to both humanity and to life in general. Okay. I'm ready for a call. We got no calls and ain't nobody asking no questions? Okay.
Not yet.
Not yet. All righty then. And that being the case,
We can
I'm
get
gonna
another
move.
song.
I'm gonna move right on.
We can do another song. They
We-
can't hear me.
We could do another song. Y'all want to do another song?
Because we're always trying to get that second song in. It's hard to get it in.
That's true. Okay. Second song. Now, as everybody can tell who's ever watched this program, I am somewhat of an entertainer.
Mm-hmm.
Now, all I'm doing is what everybody in my family does. Again, I come from a rather large family. I got 9 sisters and 1 brother. There's 11 of us. We didn't have a whole bunch of money, and as a result, we had to make up most of our own entertainment. We made up games like something like a moose, which I'll tell you about at some point in time. But we also performed. We would put on our show, and that's what we called it. Come on, y'all, let's do our show. And everybody knew their spot, and everybody knew what they were supposed to do. We sang, we acted, we danced. That was our show. And we did that from 1958. I'm 8 years old. So at least by that time, we were doing our show. Me, my brother, my sister Kathy, my sister Karen, my nephews, Tootie and Danny, and Robin and Russell, and all the rest of the nephews and nieces. They had their little part too. And that's where I got into entertaining. Turner Middle School got me into music by teaching me to play the cello. But as I stated before, most of my family played something. Betty played a flute. Evelyn played clarinet. I think Rosella played a piccolo.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
I didn't
she
know
played
that.
something. Oh, yeah. So, I'm simply doing what my whole family has been doing. As I got into my mid to late teens, I am outside of the country. Oh, I'm just about to go mid to late teens. And all of my nephews get together and they form their own band. My nephew Kevin plays guitar. Russell plays guitar. Robert played keyboard. Tootie played drums, if I'm not mistaken. And yeah, Andre played a whole bunch of percussions and so forth and so on. But they started their own band and they got pretty good. My nephew Tootie T, because his last name is Turner.
Hey.
He took it a little bit further than most of my other relatives did. And Tootie got into music when the biggest thing happening in music was coming out of Ohio. Guy by the name of George Clinton had just got together and had started several different groups, the P-Funk All-Stars,
Okay.
the Funkadelics, a whole bunch of different names for groups that were made up of the same people. That was a nice little slick move. We got a call? Oh my goodness, we have a call.
All right. So happy to get a
Just as I
call.
was
So,
trying to get into Tootie's How Can You Funk?
your name and if you'd like to tell us where you're from, you could tell us that if you'd like to.
And you have to cut down, whoever's on the phone, cut down your volume on your
Yes.
TV or your
And I
device
can't
you're
hear
watching the show on.
I don't hear nothing.
Okay. Okay, I did.
Period.
Excellent. Who's calling?
This is Sister Brenda from Cleveland, Ohio.
Sister Brenda
Yes, she's one of
Yes.
my people.
from Cleveland, Ohio.
Greetings, Brenda. We're so happy
hear
you.
anything?
Now I can.
Good.
Madase.
Brenda! Ha-ha!
Glad to be here.
Brenda, do you
Hey,
have us? Brenda,
we're-
question: do you have us on speakerphone? Because there's a slight echo.
Yeah,
Maybe-
take off. Turn
No, I
off.
don't.
Oh, it sounds like it's a television on in the background.
No,
Okay.
Okay,
it's
Brenda.
just my phone.
That's all
Okay.
right then. Do you have a question for us, ma'am?
No question, really. Just wanted to say that I had similar experience with my education and
Uh-huh.
trying to find out what I needed
Yes, ma'am.
throughout life.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
And I went to college
Mm-hmm.
not knowing what I wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
But about a year later, I said, well, maybe I'll become a nurse.
Mm.
Very
And-
familiar.
But it didn't work out. And so I switched my major and decided I want to find out about me
Yes,
and
ma'am.
what makes me tick. So I switched to psychology.
Mm.
And that's
Smart.
what I got my bachelor's in.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Okay.
but it was very frustrating the whole time
Mhm.
because I don't like to say I had a learning disability, but
Mhm.
Oh, I think they
was-
labeled us all learning disabilities.
well, they didn't tell me that.
But they made us feel that way.
No, not really.
Okay.
Good.
That's just that's just the way it was because I didn't make the grade. The grades that they wanted me to make. Even though I got my degree,
Mm-hmm.
but it wasn't, I got my degree, so
Okay. Can I give you some information about that whole process?
sure.
Okay. In order to give you some information about that process, I'm going to use this Sankofa bird. I'm going to go back in time about 1,000 years. So we are at the year 1020. In Europe, what is going on? The Roman Catholic Church has just taken over most of Europe. The Holy Roman Emperor, Charlemagne, has conquered most of Europe. And the Roman Catholic Church tells all European leaders, we don't want y'all to learn anything about anything that has anything to do with this place that we call Africa. We don't want you to learn nothing from that because that place is evil. And if we don't teach you anything, you don't need to learn it. If we are not teaching it to you, it's probably sinful. It might even be satanic. We don't know. This happened about the year 1000. And Europeans have been cheating themselves out of the learning, the understanding, and the knowledge that mankind has had for about 1,000,000 years before Europe came out of the caves and stopped eating each other. When times got rough, yeah, they were cannibals. And that's what, believe it or not, children and wives were for. They would be eaten in times of food shortage. But Europeans did not want to learn about life. And if you tried to learn about life in opposition to the Roman Catholic Church, you were ostracized, you were tortured, and then if you still didn't learn, you were killed. And you were killed very publicly so that everybody else could get the message, no, we don't want you to learn anything. We don't want you to understand how you work. We don't want
How you
you
doing?
to have any knowledge that we don't give you.
Hey, we got another caller. Caller, hold on just a second. We're finishing up with the one caller, and then we'll get you right on.
That's why the schools that have been established here have such problems teaching people, because they are based on a culture that preferred stupidity to ignorance. It wasn't that they just didn't understand, it was the fact that they didn't want to understand. So they set up their classes and their schools for people who did not want to understand. That's what you went through in college. That's what I went through in college.
And I did too.
And that's what I went
Everybody
through in medical school. And the one constant conversation that we kept having in medical school was, why do these pink people make all of this stuff so hard? Why do they make it so difficult when it is easy?
Right.
That's because they are stupid. They have always been stupid. Now, I'm not talking about present day pink people. I'm talking about their ancestors, who they come from. They didn't want to learn. They didn't want to learn anything about life or living it. Nope.
Brenda, thank you so
Can I-
much for calling in.
Okay.
She
wanna-
had a question she was about to ask.
Okay.
Go ahead, Brenda.
Well, I just want to add that I came out feeling stupid
Yes, ma'am.
because I felt like I hadn't learned anything.
Yes,
because I
ma'am.
couldn't really communicate what I had studied all those years,
Yeah.
and I felt like I just wasted my time
And money.
Yeah.
Come on.
and money. Oh, definitely
Yeah.
money.
Woo-hoo. I ain't gonna let you leave that out, brother.
But I did not blame them because they were welcoming. You know, they were trying to supposedly get other cultures into the schools by giving scholarships and grants and things. And there were a lot of Africans, in fact, at the
Yes,
at
ma'am.
the university.
Yes, ma'am. Because
And I
go ahead.
never befriended any of them because I had this fear. I don't know where that came from.
It came from Europeans. The same fear that they have of us.
And they didn't tell me that. I
No,
just,
ma'am.
from
You just pick it up
out
from
of
them.
nowhere, I just didn't think that I didn't trust them.
That sounds like good sense to me. That sounds like best sense in the world.
Because I didn't know anything about them, but today I don't. Anyway, that's all I have to say.
That's a wonderful thing to
Thank you.
to say. No, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
And-
you for allowing me to share that.
And thank the Most High for letting you go through that, because going through that has given you insight that many
Yeah.
people not only do not have, they can't get. You got it. Lord bless you, and the ancestors continue to protect.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. We got another caller on the phone. right now. I think his name is Dre. Dre, are you there?
Ray, are you there? Yeah, yeah. I'm here, sir. I'm here. I was
Okay.
talking about the gas prices. You talk about the gas and all that Europeans.
Mm-hmm.
Well, why I had discussion I was talking about earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, it's everything that's happening right now from the gas prices to the food prices. Is this thing called the Great Reset, Agenda 21. Now it's called the Liberal World Order.
Mm-hmm.
Now, they trying to do a digital dollar right now.
Yes.
So they try to do everything digital right now. So you're right. So it's the European Union right now, and it's the president administration trying to do a digital dollar.
Mm-hmm.
It's about control and power right now. It's always been about control and power. Then the ancestors, we could talk about the ancestors. We could go back. Europeans did this wrong. Our own people did this wrong because back in the days, black people, people of color owned the people of color slaves too, though.
Uh-huh.
So
You do
go all the way-
understand
we
the
go-
difference between chattel slavery and the slavery that existed before chattel slavery.
Okay, but then we could go back to before because the Arabs owned black slaves for 1,400 years too, though 1,300 years.
Again,
Arabs owned,
yes, sir. You do
Go
know
ahead,
the
go ahead,
difference.
sir. Go ahead.
You do know the difference
But tell
between
me the difference.
chattel
Tell me the
slavery.
difference.
Well, when slavery was established, it was the result generally of war. When you lost, you
Mhm.
became servile to those who won. There was
Yeah, like Rome did.
Exactly.
Rome,
There was
when you get,
yeah,
yes,
exactly.
I understand
There
that.
was
Yeah.
never any loss of humanity. There was never any I'm better than you as a being. There was none of this stuff that came from pink people's fears that biology would be understood, recognized, and everybody would consider them to be subhuman.
Mm-hmm.
That's where white superiority came from. That's where most of the losses that people suffered from chattel slavery that Europeans instituted. This was brand new because in their version of slavery, you weren't a human being. No, you lost your humanity. You were never a human being, and they did not have to recognize you as a human being. That was all brand
True.
new.
Yeah, I understand that part too, though, Bob. But I'm saying it was more. I ain't taking up for Europeans. I'm not. Like, get me wrong, but I'm saying more cultures
Yes, sir.
that they expect you as a human being right now too, though.
Yes, sir. That's true.
Like the Arab slave trade, they expect you as a human being.
Not true.
Okay, go ahead then. But I'm wrong about that because they treat. But I'm wrong about the Arab slave trade. Tell me I'm wrong there.
Well, if I'm not mistaken, the person who started, quote unquote, Arabs, a guy by the name of Muhammad.
Mm-hmm. Well,
Yeah.
Okay, his first priest was an Alkebulanese.
Mhm,
Is what
Bilal.
you call Bilal. That was
he
his name.
Call it a prayer. First
Yeah, he
call
was
it
the
a prayer.
one who called them to prayer. And one of the specific distinctions that was made by Islamic faith was anybody could become a member of the faith and go just as high as anything existed. And it didn't matter what your race was. It didn't matter what your culture was.
Right.
It didn't matter about any of those things. Again, because the guy who started all this stuff, his first in prayer was an Alkebulanese.
Call it a prayer. Mm-hmm.
The guy who called them all to worship,
Mm-hmm.
was an Alkebulanese. Europeans call Alkebulanese
What's
Africans.
the name of?
I'm sorry?
I'm listening.
Okay.
I'm trying to think of the king, the Arabic king that painted in gold. His name was on the tip of my tongue. It was Arabic King that played everybody in gold. I think I can't think of his name right now.
No,
I'm
he
sorry
wasn't
about
Arab.
Sounds like he's
I
talking about not
He was Arab.
He wasn't Arab, if I'm not mistaken. He was
Okay.
Mali.
Ghanaian.
He's from Mali.
He was
One that-
Well, at that
Mali.
time it was Ghana.
What was his name then? What's his name? I remember what was it?
King. God, Jesus, I cannot think of his name right now. Somebody will give us his name.
Because I looked it up because I did the
actually-
research of it.
He actually decreased the value of gold. Because his name just shot through my
Talking
spirit.
about Mansa Musa?
Yeah,
Mansa Musa.
Yeah, Michael Musa. Yeah,
Mansa
He was
Musa.
Arab.
No, he was not. He was Ghanaian.
Okay,
He was from Ghana.
Which one? Okay, which one I found? I don't know was it Mansa Musa. Okay, yeah, he paid everything in gold.
That's
Every
Mansa.
week.
Yeah,
So
that's him.
Okay, yeah, okay. He was
And
Arabic. Okay, he was.
and
Okay,
he
my
carried
bad.
carried track animal after track animal filled with gold. And when he went to Europe, the value of gold diminished so greatly because he gave away so much of it that it has not come back to where it was now because he gave away so much of it. But that's one of the major things in Ghana. When I was there with my business partner, they offered us all the gold that we could have. The chief of Larte offered us a spot on his mountain to live, and he said, "You can have all the gold, all the oil, all anything else that's just here. All we want you to do, Doc, is come on home."
Hey, Dre. Well, what question do
Yes,
you
sir.
have? Because we're going to wrap up the show. But do you have one last question? Anything that you heard, or anything that you've been
Yes,
wondering
please.
about? Ask Doc a question, please.
Because you seem to have a lot of information.
I just want people to wake up to the Great Reset. I just people want to wake up to Agenda
Yes, sir.
21. I just want people to wake up to know what's going on.
Yes,
These
sir.
gas prices, this administration, and then the digital dollars. This administration and the Feds turn the United States into a digital currency. That's total government control over our lives.
Yes, sir.
So I don't want. So you need to spread the information. Stop this administration stop the Feds for pushing for this digital currency because that's another form of slavery upon us.
Wow.
Okay, my brother.
That's why you need to push.
Okay.
Thank you
We
so
appreciate
much.
you so much, my brother. Call back and give us some more information.
Every Wednesday at 8 to 9 we do the show, and we would love for you to be a regular call-in guest, man.
Oh, yes,
we
we
love your
would.
energy and what you had to offer here.
May
I
the Lord
appreciate y'all.
bless you,
Take care.
Dre,
God bless.
and the
God bless.
ancestors
Ancestors
protect
protect
You
you.
too.
Absolutely.
That was
Okay.
Dre, y'all.
That was Dre. Dre had some stuff, y'all.
Yeah. We actually have a student named Dre.
I thought, for the second that might be him, but it wasn't.
Yeah.
Okay. My nephew, Tootie. Okay. We ain't going to be able to do How Can You From?
If you want to, if not, we what time? Okay, we're an hour and 10 minutes in.
Okay, then we can't do it then. I'm afraid, Tootie, we ain't going to be able to do it because
We'll do it next show.
we're 10 minutes past when we should have stopped. But your song is going to be first on the agenda. Okay. I wanted to do it anyway, but no, God said no. Okay. With that being said, my wife and I will simply wish you peace, which stands for proper education always corrects error. We'll see y'all next week, y'all. Peace. Oh, you made it to the end of the video. Well, I am tired a little bit differently. I'm dressed as Baba Amwa. If you would like more of your own understanding, like,
having us on your minds.
Peace. Oh, you made it to the end of the video. Well, I am tired a little bit differently. I'm dressed as Baba Amwa. If you would like more of your own understanding, like, share, and subscribe.
Yes.
And go to the sites that we have listed around us. The Most High is good.
And the ancestors are kind.
Thanks
For having us on your minds.
Peace.